Yo, what's up, Kings? It's Dan from Daft Previews, and I am back. I've analyzed the slate for tomorrow's game. So, this is again one of the most comprehensive player prop videos you are going to see. In this video, I'm going to take you through all the players with easy matchups based on the defense's last 15 games. I'm also going to share with you my best bet on the slate. So let's jump straight into it. Previewing the Hornets versus the Bulls. There's 6 players that I want to discuss with you. The very first one is Kobe White, and we're looking at over 5.5 rebounds. This is not a pick. These are not picks. This is just my analysis of my research. If you want to skip ahead to my best bets, I'll have some chapters in there, and you can jump right across. So Kobe White, over 5.5 rebounds. The Charlotte Hornets, they allow the third most rebounds to point guards. Kobe's been an effective rebounder since joining the starting lineup, averaging 5.8 rebounds per game over his last 10. He did record 9 rebounds in his last matchup against the Charlotte Hornets. Brandon Miller's another player that has a good matchup, and that's over 2.5 3-pointers made. So the Bulls allow the third most 3-pointers made to shooting guards. He is averaging 2.3 3-pointers made over his last 10, and he's taken quite a few shots, 6.4 attempts per game. In some of those games, he attempts 10 shots. So if you feel like he's going to take 10 shots, this play is going to be excellent. Another one's DeMar DeRozan, over 25.5 points and assists. That's because the Charlotte Hornets allow the second most points and the most assists to small forwards this season. DeMar's covered in 7 of his last 10, averaging 27.1 points and assists per game. Zach LaVine may be back, though, and that could impact his usage rate overall. So one to consider. Maybe look at his assist prop. The next one's Miles Bridges, over 7.5 rebounds. The Bulls allow the second most rebounds to power forwards. Bridges is averaging 7.4 rebounds per game over his last 10. And I think the reason why they give up so much is Patrick Williams tends to just sit in the corner. Easy defensive rebounds for whoever's guarding him. The other one's the centers in this game. So Nikola Vucevic props aren't available yet. And if he's not good to go, Andre Drummond might be the one to pick. But the Hornets allow the most points and the third most rebounds to the center position. On the other side, Nick Richards, over 9.5 rebounds. The Bulls allow the fourth most rebounds to centers. He's also covered this in 6 of his last 10. So you might want to take the plays that you like. You might want to bring down the line a little bit and play a parlay off them. It's really up to you what you decide to do with all this information. The next one's in the Pacers v Celtics. There's not many lines up at the moment purely because there's a lot of players who are game time decisions. But looking at the data, players that we have, one obvious one's Jason Tatum, over 30.5 points. So I took his overs in their last matchup, which cashed. This has moved 2 points since then. And that's because the Pacers allow the most points to power forwards. Tatum's also covered in 5 of his last 6 games against the Pacers, averaging 34.3 points per game. So he scored 30-plus points in all of those games, his lowest total being 30. If Jason Tatum's not good to play, or Porzingis, Jaylen Brown's another good pick, over some points. The Pacers allow the third most points to small forwards. He killed it in their last matchup, so if Tatum's not good to go, I think Brown should score over 30 points in this game. And the next one's Tyrese Halliburton, over 23.5 points. The Celtics allow the 5th most points to point guards. He's only covered in 2 of his last 5, though, averaging 21.5 points per game. He shot terribly in their last matchup, took 17 shots. So if you believe in the bounce back factor and he returning to form, he might be a good pick for you because his line's dropped a little bit. The next game's the OKC Thunder versus Washington Wizards. So there's quite a few. This has the most players to choose from, actually, purely because the Washington Wizards are garbage and there's no injuries in this game. So a lot of props are available. So the very first one is SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You can look at over 41.5 points and assists. The Wizards allow the 4th most points and the 7th most assists to point guards. SGA is covered in 4 of his last 10, averaging 39.5 points and assists. So this line is a lot higher than what he has been averaging. But look, a lot of Thunders do have a good matchup in this game and blowout is a risk. So personally, if I had to bet this play, I would take his unders. So even though the matchup is good, there's a chance that they blow them out. There's a chance that other players from the OKC Thunder play better than they normally would. And SGA can take a back seat and possibly get some rest. So the next one, though, is Josh Giddey, over 4.5 assists. Australia. Now, the Wizards, they allow the 5th most assists to shooting guards. Giddey's averaging 4.5 assists over his last 10. He's recorded 4 assists over his last 9 of his last 10 games. So it could be a good add to parlays and multis. Next one is Jordan Poole over 14.5 points. The Thunder allow the 6th most points and the 5th most 3-pointers made to shooting guards. His form lately is awful. He's gone under this number in 6 consecutive games, and this matchup isn't good enough for me to even consider Jordan Poole. The next one's Lou Dort over 18.5 points, rebounds, and assists. The Wizards allow the 4th most points, 2nd most rebounds, and the 5th most assists to small forwards. Dort's averaging 18.1 points, rebounds, and assists in his last 10 games. He's covered in his last 2 against the Wizards, averaging 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists in those games. Jalen Williams, over 17.5 points. The Wizards allow the 2nd most points to power forwards. Williams is averaging 19.3 points per game in his last 10. So he's got a good matchup, and the line is lower than what he's been averaging. So might be a good play there for Jalen Williams. Next one's Kyle Kuzma, over 5.5 rebounds. OKC allow the 4th most rebounds to power forwards. Kuzma is averaging 5.5 rebounds in his last 10, but he's been chaotic. In his last 3 games, he's only averaging 2 rebounds per game. It's quite strange. And the next one's Chet Holmgren, over 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Washington allow the 6th most points, most rebounds, and the 2nd most assists to centers. But Chet is only covered in 3 of his last 10 games. He's averaging 28 PRA. He versed Memphis not long ago, and they allow a shit ton of stats to centers. And I think he only grabbed 6 rebounds in that game. So, yeah, I'm not too sure about Chet on this one, but if you've got faith in him, at least the data says yes. There's only one pick in the Rockets versus Heat game in terms of matchups. That's Fred VanVleet over 7.5 assists. The Miami Heat allow the 3rd most assists to point guards. Fred's averaging 7.9 assists over his last 10 games. He's also covered this in 3 of his last 4 games against the Heat, averaging 8.3 assists per game. Next one is Jazz versus the Bucks. So Dame Lillard over 7.5 assists. The Jazz allow the 5th most assists to point guards. Dame's covered in 4 of his last 10, averaging 6.3 assists per game. Malik Beasley over in his points. So there's no prop available yet, but Utah allow the most points and the 2nd most 3-pointers made to shooting guards. The next one's Chris Middleton over 7.5 assists. So the Utah Jazz allow the 6th most assists to small forwards. The line is quite high. He's only hit 7.5 assists in 2 of 31 games this year. So quite strange to see that so high. I'd probably lean the under in that one or just avoid it altogether. And then the next one is John Collins over 12.5 points. The Bucks allow the 2nd most points to centers. He's lining up at center today. He is averaging 12.7 points per game in his last 10. His recent trend is actually quite good, and this was a player I really considered as playing as a single. We know the Bucks allow a lot of points. They're not great defensively. So for John Collins to hit 12.5, it's not such a bad pick, but just a lean for now. And I've got nothing on the Phoenix v Clippers game. So there's no lineups available at the time that I'm recording this. So I didn't do a look at the players who have gone off in their last 10 games because that was pretty shit. I think I had a few from the last game. We had Luka, he went under. Kawhi, he went under. Norman Powell, he went over. And RJ Barrett for rebounds. And I think he might have got hooked, whatever it may be. But I think form over the last 10 games doesn't require a video, to be honest. Anybody can find that. It's pretty straightforward. So I'll look to avoid that, save myself a little bit of editing time and less time for you to have to scroll if you're not finding any value in that. But let's get straight into my best bet for the day. I've only got the one play at the moment, looking at basically all the analysis I've done. And it's the same game parlay, believe it or not. So I'm heading over to the OKC game. I'm taking Jalen Williams for 15 points and Josh Giddey for 4 assists. I got this for $2.20, which is plus 120 for those of you in the US. So I don't share many same game parlays on this channel, as I know in most cases they're not their best way to bet basketball. But as a sports bettor, we absolutely love them. So this particular play is good value for what we're asking for. So I'm happy to share it here tonight. So let's firstly look at Jalen Williams and his line that I'm taking of 15 points. So he's covered this in 21 of 31 games this season. It's a good sample size. It's a 68% hit rate. So implied probability of this play at 68% shows odds that should be approximately $1.47 or minus 213. So the odds that I picked up are $1.49, which is minus 204, which indicates there isn't much juice in this pick. So both teams will play with a lot of pace. There'll be plenty of scoring opportunities in this one. Jalen Williams also tends to get a lot of usage when SGA subs out of the game. He becomes a primary ball handler and their go-to scorer. Given how easy this game should be for OKC, hopefully they take this as an opportunity to rest SGA and let these two guys go off. So as mentioned earlier as well, the Wizards allow the second most points to power forwards over their last 15 games. We're not asking for Jalen Williams to cover his line in this one, even though there's a good chance that he does. We're only asking for 15 points. The next play is Josh Giddey. So we're taking him to get 4 assists. So he's been consistent as hell with his assists. He's covered this line in 24 of 33 games this season, which is a 73% hit rate. He's also covered it in 9 of his last 10. But if we run the same math over the 73% hit rate this season, and we use that implied probability, we should be seeing odds of $1.37, which is minus 270 for those of you in the US. I'm getting odds of $1.50, which is minus 200. So if you do, I guess, work the math out that way, we're probably getting good value on this one. We're probably just not getting juiced up as much as other picks are. I mentioned earlier that the Wizards, they're allowing the 5th most assists per game to shooting guards. Giddey's also had some success in his last matchup against the Wizards. He put up 9 assists. The other thing about this pick is that it correlates well with the Jalen Williams scoring prop. So Jalen Williams is Giddey's second favorite target behind SGA in terms of who they pass the ball to. So 18% of Josh Giddey's passes actually go to Jalen Williams. So hopefully I can foresee it now. Josh Giddey gets a long rebound. Jalen Williams runs the floor. Giddey dimes him. Hopefully he can get that 2 or 3 times. Easy assist for him and some easy points for Jalen Williams. Run it up. So that's the only bet that I have at the moment, to be honest. I found as of late, I've been pumping too many single bets out. I'll prefer to be a little bit more conservative, try to pull it back to 2 or 3 a day. This is the first one that I've landed on. Bets already placed before odds can move on me. If you're interested in seeing anything else that I do play, though, you can jump into the Discord. It's absolutely free. I don't charge for anything, and everything I bet on, I will share it in there. It's also a pretty nice community. People like to get wild during the games, complain about their favorite players or celebrate their favorite players and shit on the ones who are costing the money. So if you're into all that, you can jump into the Discord. If not, you can just keep supporting me on YouTube. If you do want to show some support on YouTube, you know what you need to do. You need to like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't. I do this on a daily basis if this is your first time. And drop me a comment. Just say anything. Tell me what you think about the video. Tell me what you think about the presentation, props, and all that good stuff. But the most important thing you can do to support me is obviously to watch this to the end. YouTube values watch time. So the longer you watch it, the more likely they're going to share it with other people. Share this video around. Share it in your show socials. Share it on Discord groups. Share it on wherever it's going to be. Just let's get this thing out there so we can help educate the planet on NBA player props. Given that I've only got this one play at the moment, I'll also be interested in seeing what you guys are playing. So drop it in the comment section. Explain the reason why for your pick. If you influence me, because I read all the comments. If you influence me to take that pick on, I'll share it in the next video. How about that? That'll be our new comment of the day. You share a great pick, and if it influences me enough to take it, I'll share it in the next video. Let's go. Quick recap on the day that was. Not a great one. 2 from 6. I saw a lot of people, a lot of cappers actually struggling at the moment. It's been 3 days of just ridiculous NBA picking at the moment. So if you find anybody out there who's doing well, just put their information down there so I can hunt them down. But yeah, difficult time. Malik Monk, that was my best pick of the day, I would say. All the data lined up. But he just got there, 5 assists, 33-point blowout loss. We had Trae Young's over in his PRA, so that cashed. Needed overtime to get it done, but it cashed pretty easy at the end of the day. All the other ones were pretty shit. Westbrook was awful. He only played 18 minutes. He played less than I thought he would, and he only got 1 rebound anyway. So that sucked. Expected a big game out of Jamal Murray. Big game delivered, but he didn't get the assist. He bloody had like 28 points at halftime and no assists or something ridiculous like that. We took Jeremy Grant for 3 assists. I checked the stats throughout the day, and I saw that he had taken 11 shots in the first 11 minutes that he played. So he's pretty much not passing the ball to anyone. So that sucked. What else was there? There was something else out there that was shit anyway, but not happy overall. Crap day. If I had actually had a look at all the how the positional plays went, so all the players that I gave matchups on, there's actually 27 players I shared. Started off quite well in a lot of the early games. A lot of people cashed. In the Cavs game was good. The Boston game, that was good. Some players from the Pelicans and Kings game, that went quite well as well. But everything in the Clippers and Lakers game was awful. So I guess the learning out of that, it's not just about the matchup. There are other things that you need to consider, but I think you all know that. But it does give us a good starting point. But look, something I'll keep sharing. You guys seem to love it, so we'll keep that happening. But look, that's all I've got for you for now. I'll keep checking the numbers. I'll read some articles, and if I find anything else, I'll put it in the Discord. So I appreciate y'all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's dance.
Sub to the channel cause your boy's getting busy. Coming to your line from the west side of Sydney. We've got the free picks and the juice on the daily. It's all free, you don't even have to pay me.